Do you want to have a true slab-like experience filled with vodka and Kalashnikovs? What about an experience where you get the portal gun from Rick and Morty? How about an experience where you might finally be able to scratch that stalker itch after all these years? Well, boy, do I possibly have a game for you. So strap in, strap on, and wait, you know what? Just strap in, roll it. Welcome, I am your Master of War, Grinning Zero, and today I got a treat for you that surprisingly isn't Hunt Showdown. No, instead today we're going to be diving into Chernobylite, an early access game that I picked up to see what all the fuss was about. Now don't go into this expecting an over-the-top balls-to-the-wall critical action review, cause I ain't no review master. No, instead I'm going to be sharing my early access impressions of this game to really see if this is something that you should keep an eye on for final release. I will do a full review once the game comes out though, so stay tuned. Anyways, brace yourselves, cause it's about to get serious. And with that, I want to start this off by saying the opening hours of Chernobylite are fantastic and really suck you into the world that the devs at Farm 51 have built. But I will say there are a few things I did not personally like. More on that later. What I liked the most was the atmosphere, which I think they did a great job on. There are moments in the game where the sound, lighting, and in-game effects just really shine. In other words, it makes you feel like you're in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Seriously though, there are some great moments here, and of course great set pieces that have an effect on the overarching narrative. You'll notice from mission selection that the overall environment also changes based on decisions that you make, which I think is a nice little addition that I don't see often in any other game. These decisions themselves may have more weight to them on full release, but I will say at the moment they don't feel like they do much just yet. Not a deal breaker, but there it is. You'll come across random events that also appear to be the Chernobylite warping the zone. Many of these are pretty cool, like seeing liquidator ghosts from the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear accident disappear out of thin air. There are also events in-game called Chernobylite storms that can bring in enemies called shadows and Chernohosts that come crawling from interdimensional portals like they just hopped over from the ring. The first time encountering these felt pretty intense as I could hear these creatures show up, but didn't initially see them until I moved deeper into a dark, decrepit building, which was pretty great. Truthfully, once I started fighting them, however, I didn't find them that tough after a fight or two, which I think will most likely change in the future. I hope. Speaking of fights, the combat can be decent. Weapons kind of feel like they have some weight to them when you're taking down enemies, but could be tweaked a little. The devs have indicated they are working on stuff for combat, so stay tuned for that. I will go into the AI later, because that is something I do find concerning at the time of this video. We have base building, which isn't super in-depth, but works well enough and can have an effect on team morale and performance. So make sure you take some time to build those beds before everyone finds out you're not a true Slav, and actually a Western spy. Speaking of true Slavs, this guy right here has an excellent Slav squad, along with hard bass music. This guy's a gem for sure. Can we get a backstory for this character, please? Alongside base building, see what I did there? There's also weapon customization. I think the weapon customization is decent and gives you options to turn your favorite weapon into something that you can be really proud to carry into battle. I mostly used it with the revolver during my playthrough, with revolver ammo feeling like it was the most plentiful in the zone. There are other building and customization options, but without going into too much depth, just know that it is there for those of you who want to build stuff while enjoying your stay in the 5-star Chernobyl Hotel and Resort. With base building and weapon customization also comes crafting and resource management with inventory management. There are basic systems where you can craft healing salves and whatnot using various resources found throughout your time spent exploring. Keep in mind you won't be able to carry everything that isn't nailed down, sadly, as the game uses an inventory system similar to Resident Evil or Escape from Tarkov minus item weight, or at least I never noticed weight to any of the items I found. To find resources more easily, you'll use your Geiger counter. Pretty handy considering you're borderline glowing from the rads already, that must charge back up each time you use it. One thing to note here is I think the game has an over-reliance on the use of this device, which I do think should be scaled back a bit to keep it from becoming a game of find the highlighted apple. With resource management comes exploration, and we have a handful of maps that have a good amount of detail in them without feeling like they were copy and pasted. Something cool to note here is the devs actually went into the Chernobyl exclusion zone to do 3D imaging to design these maps. The maps themselves, though, definitely feel like they are on the small side. And with that being said, here's what I don't like or find lacking about the game. Keep in mind, again, this is an early access title, and I do think the devs being as transparent as they have been will greatly improve the game in the coming months leading up to release. Map exploration is limited at this time, with the maps feeling very small and easy to sprint through. You don't have any stamina from what I've seen per se from the time I've spent playing, so you can literally sprint from one end of a map to the other in a couple of minutes. Exploration also feels repetitive, as you'll almost certainly keep coming back to the same areas that you've explored the first time to go after a small set piece to continue the story. Now, is this bad? Not necessarily, but I hope to see more variations in the maps on full release, so the maps feel much more different each time we explore them. Gathering resources also feels like a chore when you're exploring, where you might be more concerned with finding mushrooms or scrap metals to build more stuff in your base than progressing deeper into Chernobylite's story. With the game being early access and the story missions not being fully complete, don't jump into this thinking you are getting some Mass Effect level story. Although, I think the parts of the story I have seen so far are kind of average. Most of the time, the main character is over here obsessing about his wife who has been missing for 30 years. But hey, I'm sure this plot will get resolved and we'll understand the big picture in the end. Many of the characters do kind of feel like placeholders at the moment, as I haven't really built an attachment with any of them. They just don't feel meaningful at the moment. This is primarily due to the lack of meaningful dialogue, which, speaking of placeholders, the dialogue is due to be updated soon with brand new voiceovers. Do not think they aren't adding full dialogue for all characters in game, as I think, when this update hits, it will change how the interactions with characters feel, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have in store for this. Moving on to the AI from earlier. The AI is the biggest thing that I dislike. Enemies in the game just don't feel threatening. Maybe it was because I didn't change my difficulty settings from the standard difficulty of medium, but I felt like a tank, even without any skill upgrades, and the AI just doesn't feel aggressive enough at times. They don't have grenades to throw at you and keep you on your toes, and you can apparently take a full shotgun blast to the chest like a T-800, and only lose like 10% of your health while also healing up mid-fight. They can also apparently see you through walls and will even attempt to shoot at you through those walls, which is odd. So in short, the AI needs a lot more work. There are also some performance issues, most notably in the sections with lots of AI or radiation clouds. I noticed at one point in my game, it started feeling like a slideshow while I just mowed down every NPC I saw, like it was nothing as they stacked up in a line, up a flight of stairs, waiting for the one tap from my shotgun. The issue promptly fixed itself after annihilating about 20 NPCs. And to add to this, I noticed some items don't like to be picked up for some reason, and you'll have to get creative to grab these. Some enemies will also glitch through walls while still being able to shoot at you as well. Other than that, the game mostly ran fine, with only one crash during my entire playthrough, during the section I just described. Now, if you were to ask me what I would say about this game, I'd say overall it isn't a completely bad experience, but I wouldn't say it's a really good experience either. At best, my impressions of the game are average. At the start of the game, I was all in and ready to go, guns a-blazing. But by the end of seeing what this early access title had to offer, I felt kind of uninterested. There's about 8-ish hours of content to see in one playthrough, and the way the game is set up, you'll need to use multiple playthroughs to see all the consequences of your actions. But again, many of those consequences just don't feel like they have any weight yet. We'll see what happens. For $30, you could do a lot worse, but I would honestly suggest just keeping up with dev updates and seeing how it turns out on full release. The good news here is the devs have been very transparent about the development of Chernobylite, more so than a lot of full-fledged AAA developers. But while I am confident the devs at Farm 51 could easily make this a much better experience, I'm going to be cautiously optimistic here. It should also be said, Chernobylite is absolutely not another Stalker title, and in fact, I don't think any game out there could accomplish that, so don't leave here thinking this is a Stalker copycat, because that just isn't fair to this game. So, is Chernobylite something I think you should pick up right now? Honestly, I'm leaning towards no. It's not that it is a bad game, I just think you'd be better off waiting until its final release in Q2 of this year, to see how it turns out. That being said, that's all I got for you. So as usual, give 'em hell, my fellow war machines, and good luck on the battlefield.